All right. So on the of the day that I was going to give birth, actually I had a doctor's appointment that day, and I was actually 40 weeks and 3 days. When I made this doctor's appointment, I was thinking, oh, I will have the baby by then. I actually thought I was gonna have the baby early, actually, because I had baby girl early, like 4 days early. So I'm thinking, oh, I'm gonna have him early too. My due date came and went, no baby. And then I had the appointment scheduled, which is 3 days after my due date. So I'm at the appointment, and then they asked, do I want to do a cervical sweep? And I said, I'm like, sure. I had read up on it before I even got there. And since they offered, I was like, go ahead. Anything to make this baby come that's like no chemicals or hormones or anything like that. 'Cause they had planned my induction date, and I was really hoping that I did not have to get induced. I did not want to get induced. So then I had my appointment, so they did the cervical sweep, and then he said, I'm going to feel some cramping, there may be some slight bleeding. And then so I go home, and my stomach is really cramping, and I check, and then there was not slight bleeding. It wasn't enough to where I was thinking like there was something wrong. But when he said slight, I'm thinking it's going to be like a dot here, a dot there. It was more than slight, but I realize now it was like it had triggered. The mucus plug came out, so it's like the bloody show, I guess, had happened, or was happening, because not like it happened in an instant. It was like a little almost continuous for me. And then the cramping started to turn to true contractions, but they were spaced far apart at this point, and maybe it's now maybe 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and they're spaced far apart at this point. And so I'm wondering, are these contractions, or is this cramping? Because it's just too convenient. Like, as soon as he does the cervical sweep, I start going into labor. So then I tell myself, the minute that they get 5 minutes apart, even if it's one contraction and it's like 5 minutes apart, I'm going to call the hospital, because they were just too regular at that point in time, but the spacing was just far apart. So now I go on to the night. I'm still having the contractions. It's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And now it's like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. I'm still having them. And now it's uncomfortable for me. But they're still not 5 minutes apart. And so then it's maybe 2 o'clock at this point. 2 o'clock in the morning. So 2 a.m. the next day. And I finally got one. I was 5 minutes apart. I was like, doop, doop, doop. As soon as I had one, I was 5 minutes apart. I called the hospital, and I told them I've been having contractions that are 5 minutes apart. She didn't ask me how many I had, even though it was just one that was 5 minutes apart. But I have been having them regularly. And at this point, it was painful, but it was not. I was not at the top of my pain threshold. I would say, like, on a scale of 1 to 10, they were maybe like a 5, as far as the contractions and how they felt. And then, so I spoke with the nurse, or the person that answered the phone at the hospital. And she said, well, just come on in. And then, so I took a quick shower real quick. And then I woke my family up. I was like, look, it's time to go. And so we're headed to the hospital. And then I was telling my husband, I was like, look, if I'm not 4 centimeters, they're not going to keep me. They're going to send us back home. And I said, and I was like, preparing him mentally, because I felt a little bit bad that I woke them up like 2 o'clock in the morning, and then if it turns out to be like false labor, I'm not like dilated enough for them to even take me. I was trying to mentally prepare my husband for that. Okay, so then we get to the hospital, and it's like maybe 3 o'clock at this point now that we pull up to the hospital. We walk in. We left the stuff in the car just in case, it was false labor and I had to go back home. So we walk in with baby girl, and then they take me to the back. When I go in, they take me to the back. I changed my clothes to their little gown, and they're gonna do a cervical check. Well, first they're gonna take my blood pressure. So the nurse is in there taking my blood pressure, and I'm sitting on the bed, and I have the gown, on me, no clothes underneath, just the gown. And then she's taking my blood pressure, and then suddenly it's like a push. My water broke, and before this, my water didn't break with baby girl, so I don't. The doctor had broke it while I was like in labor, so I don't remember the feeling of the sensation. But this time, there was no mistaking. I know before I went to labor, this time I was thinking, how do I know if my water broke? What if I don't notice? There was no mistaking if my water broke or not. it was like a river. It was like a ocean of water, and I felt like I was sitting in the bed, and I felt like it just gushed out and like came up on the sides and fell down in slow motion. And then my husband and my daughter, they're sitting in the chair like catacornered to me, and my daughter her eyes just got big. And I was like, whoa. And the nurse, then they started going a little faster on things at this point. And then so the doctor came in, they're like, okay, her water just broke. And then when the nurse the doctor came in, her water just broke, and then she's like, okay, I'm gonna do she put the gloves on and did the exam, and she's like, you're 8 centimeters dilated. She was like, I can't believe you stayed at home that long in labor. And then so they rolled me to a different room, I guess, where I was gonna give birth, in this room. So I'm in this room, and at this point, after my water broke, the contractions started to come a lot stronger and closer together. But I still was not at the top of my pain threshold. I was still like maybe I'm at a 7 and an 8 at this point when we first get into the room. And then now I'm reaching at a 9. I'm still not at my 10. I'm at a 9 at this point. And then so I am doing everything in my mental power to deal with this pain and try to keep, I guess, some type of composure on me, because my daughter is in there. It just so happened that, like I said, baby was late, so my family was in town to take care of her, but they had came and gone by this point. And so she's catacornered like to the bed, where she can't really see anything, but she can see the expression on my face. And so then I look to the side, and tears are just coming down her eyes. And at that point, I like got it together. I like sucked up the whatever pain I was trying to register on my face, and it was just like, baby girl, I'm okay. It just hurts when you have a baby, but after the baby comes out, I'm gonna be fine. And she was like, oh, okay. And then so I asked my husband, I was like, baby, can you do something with her? I don't know what I was thinking he was going to do with her. I wanted her not to be sitting there crying while I'm sitting there in labor. Like, I can't concentrate on her, and dealing with the pain that I was feeling at the same time. It was just a bit too much. So he took her out the room. And then when he took her out the room, he comes back like 2 minutes later without her. And I'm like, where is she? He's like, oh, I left her in the waiting room. Now, at this point, like, my memory was like, what? You left her in the waiting room? But it didn't come out like that. It was like, I was like, what? And it was just too much for me to have to process. Go get her from the waiting room. Wait, I think the baby's coming. There's too much pain. It was just a bit much. So he comes in, and like, as soon as he walks into the room, I tell the nurse, it's like, okay, the baby's coming. And then they call the doctor in, and they tell me at this push, to prepare for the baby to come out and all that stuff. And then so, like I said, he's in the room. I tell her the baby's coming. The doctor comes. I did 4 good pushes. And then the baby was out. It was like 3 good pushes and like 1 long push. This baby, he was a big baby. He was stuck. So 1 long push. So 4 pushes, and then the baby came out. And then at this point, then they put the baby up on my chest, and I see the baby, and he's not making any noise. And I'm like, is he breathing? Is he breathing? And like 5 seconds, maybe less than that, I'm exaggerating, he starts breathing and crying, and I'm like, oh, I feel like that relief sensation just come over me. And then they laid him on my chest, and I feel this warm sensation going down my arm. Yeah, he was pooping and peeing on me. That's what that sensation was. But I didn't even care. I was just glad that he was there and he was healthy. And then the door opens, and it's someone bringing my daughter in, and she's crying hysterically at this point. She's crying hysterically at this point because she missed the birth. And then she thought she was lost and she couldn't find us. So I get her in. She sees the baby. She calms down. Baby's fine. There are no issues. He was a big baby, almost 9 pounds. He was 8 pounds and 15 ounces. Big baby. But he's healthy. He's doing fine. He's sitting back there. Actually, I'll probably add to the video and do like a shot with him in it. But yeah, so like I said, we got to the hospital at 3, and I had him at 4:12 in the morning. So it was a quick process from being at the hospital to having him, because I did a lot of the labor at home. But yeah, that was pretty much my story. I did tear some, but it wasn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. Basically, I think I over prepared for the pain in my head. So when I was actually there and in pain, I still, like, even when I had them, I hadn't reached like level 10 when they, the pain thresholds go. But he's a beautiful baby. I'm so pleased. I'm so glad that it's over. Now to get my my beach body ready.